A judge in Pennsylvania just sentencing Bill Cosby to 3 to 10 years in prison for a 2004 sexual assault. I'm joined now by Rick Leventhal, who is outside the courtroom with the very latest. 3 to 10 years, not as much as he could have served, but nonetheless, Bill Cosby is going to prison, Rick.
He is indeed, Julie. No less than 3 years, no more than 10 years. The judge ruling that Bill Cosby must cover the cost of the prosecution, $25,000, apparently over the first 12 months, not to contact the family of the alleged victim, Andrea Constand, or Andrea Constand, and is subject to sex offender program. So Bill Cosby, 81, and according to his defense team, legally blind, will be going to state prison. And it's our understanding that he will be first taken to the Montgomery County Jail in Lower Providence Township to await transport to the State Correctional Institute Phoenix, which is about 12 miles north of Philadelphia, where Bill Cosby had an estate, where Bill Cosby took Andrea Constand, and where he gave her drugs and then sexually assaulted her, the basis of the aggravated indecent assault charges. So now Bill Cosby has been sentenced 3 to 10 years in state prison. That means that he will most likely, we assume pretty shortly, be taken out a back door of this courthouse in handcuffs, put in a police transport, and taken to that county jail to be transferred to a state prison facility where he will be evaluated and then presumably spend at least the next 3 years of his life, Julie.
And so let's talk appeals process. As you know, of course, his lawyers are going to appeal this. By sentencing him to 3 to 10 years, does that hurt his appeals process? Does it make it harder for his defense to try to appeal, considering a minimum of 3 years is not nearly as much as he could have served?
Well, first of all, the judge merged the 3 charges that he was convicted of into one. So he could have faced 10 years on each count. They merged them, so the max he could face was 10. So basically the judge said 3 to 10, touching on that maximum sentence that he could have received based on the merging of the charges. One of the big questions was, would the judge allow him free on bail while he considered any appeals that might be filed? And the DA, Kevin Steele, said because you deemed him a sexually violent predator, he doesn't qualify for house arrest. So that may have played into the judge's decision. We're just not sure about that. But I'll tell you this, Bill Cosby could have spoken in court today in his own defense. He could have said something to the judge about remorse for what he had done. He didn't do that, and there was talk beforehand that he probably wouldn't, because if he says he has remorse, that wouldn't support an appeal if he claims innocence. We can tell you that when Bill Cosby in court was informed of the responsibilities he would have as a sex offender, he was told that the victims in this case would be notified. Bill Cosby asked if he had to notify them and was told no, and Cosby, according to our producer in the courtroom, replied, good. So that's being handled by the state. Bill Cosby is not notifying his offenders. He's been told you can't contact, his victims, and there's one confirmed victim here, but more than 60 women claim that Bill Cosby assaulted them, and then several of them were in the courtroom, including former supermodel Janice Dickinson. She was here to hear that sentence being read inside the courtroom here in Norristown in Montgomery County Courthouse. So, again, Bill Cosby sentenced to 3 to 10 years in prison. We expect to hear from the DA at a news conference, and probably some of these women who've been spending much of this time in the courtroom who claim Bill Cosby did the same thing to them. Perhaps even the victim, Andrea Constand, will speak. We're not sure about that, but we'll be waiting to find out, Julie.